Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. You do the Prema Dhvani. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Astotra Sati Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Astotra Sati Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Gir Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvitam Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samavita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. I've never given class in a situation like this before. With all the great devotees from Mayapur down, all the great souls here. And, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 23, verse number 38. I'm looking for one thing. Okay. Tasmin alupta-mahimā priyayānurakto vidyādharībhir upacīrṇa-vapur vimāne babhrāja utkaca-kumud-gaṇavān apīcyas tārābhir āvṛta ivoḍu-patir nabhaḥ-sthaḥ tasmin alupta-mahimā priyayānurakto vidyādharībhir upacīrṇa-vapur vimāne babhrāja utkaca-kumud-gaṇavān apīcyas tārābhir āvṛta ivoḍu-patir nabhaḥ-sthaḥ tasmin alupta-mahimā priyayānurakto ladies. Tasmin, in that, alupta, not lost, mahimā, glory, priyayā, with his beloved consort, anurakta, attached, vidyādharībhir, by the Gandharva girls, upacīrṇa, waited upon, vapuḥ, his person, vimāne, on the airplane, babhrāja, he shone, utkaca, open, kumut-gaṇavān, the moon, which is followed by rows of lilies, apīcyaḥ, very charming, tārābhir, by stars, āvṛta, surrounded, as, uḍu-patir, the moon, the chief of the stars, nabhaḥ-sthaḥ, in the sky. Though seemingly attached to his beloved consort, while served by the Gandharva girls, the sage did not lose his glory, which was mastery over his self. In the aerial mansion of Kardama Muni, with his consort, shone as charmingly as the moon in the midst of the stars in the sky, which causes rows of lilies to open in ponds at night. Repeat after me. Though seemingly attached to his beloved consort, while served by the Gandharva girls, the sage did not lose his glory, which was mastery over his self. In the aerial mansion, Kardama Muni, with his consort, shone as charmingly as the moon in the midst of the stars in the sky, which causes rows of lilies to open in ponds at night. The Prabhupada's purport. The mansion was in the sky, and therefore the comparison to the full moon and the stars is very beautifully composed in this verse. Kardama Muni looked like the full moon, and the girls who surrounded his wife, Devahuti, seemed just like the stars. On a full moon night, the stars and the moon together form a beautiful constellation. Similarly, in that aerial mansion in the sky, Kardama Muni with his beautiful wife and the damsels surrounding them appeared like the moon and stars on a full moon night. Om again Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. I'll tell you just a little bit about myself in my beginning in Krishna consciousness, and it definitely relates to what I wanted to talk about today. I took a few notes and thought of a few things I could say, but I first started coming very seriously in 1970 after I read the Bhagavad Gita as it is and met the devotees for a couple of times, and I knew immediately that this is what I had to do. I had to be a devotee and be like the man who shaved their heads and wore a dhoti. And when I knew I had to do that, that was what I had to do with my life. But I wanted to do it, but I was very I couldn't commit myself. I was still trying to get some sense gratification, and it took me 5 years of going back and forth to the temple and trying to get sense gratification, and always suffering, because I knew what I was doing, what I shouldn't be doing, and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, and it became very big distress. And then I went up to University of Massachusetts, and because I knew that some of the devotees from the Boston Temple had a little preaching center up there, and they all knew me, and they all liked me. I had been going there to the Boston Temple for 5 years, so they knew me, they liked me, and but they knew my nature, that I was wishy-washy and couldn't commit, going back and forth. And so the head of that little preaching center, it was a very vibrant preaching center, a lot of prasadam distribution, and it was just really nice. And the head of it his name was Kardama Muni, and one day I went to the preaching center, and he knew me really good, and he liked me. I liked him, and everything was nice. But one day he just got kind of disgusted with me, and he goes, "Listen, Bhakta Mike, you've been coming for years. You either get a job now and give all your money to the temple, or move in the temple now." And I knew he was right. And I didn't want to get a job again. And that's when I moved in the temple. Not just because I didn't want to get a job, but because I knew I had to, and I'd been putting it on. And of course, in my first several years in the temple, I struggled a lot. But I moved in the temple in January 76, and at that time, you got initiated pretty much after 6 months, if you were, dutiful and a good temple member, and I filled the basic requirements. I was worked hard, and anyway, we got initiated at New York Rath Yatra in 1976, and Prabhupada was there. He wasn't at the fire sacrifice. He wasn't feeling well that day, but he had given class, Chaitanya Charitamrita class that morning, but he was up in his room for the initiation ceremony. But I got and I'll tell you a story that for many years I didn't want to tell anybody, but I tell it now, because what do I have to lose now? Nothing. So there was like 50 first initiates in the arena, which was a big initiation back then. And anyways, they were going through the different temples, the different men and women who were getting initiated from the different temples, and then they got to the Boston Temple. And I knew there was about 5 of us getting initiated from the Boston Temple, and so the first one went up, and the second one went up, And I knew in a minute I'm going to be initiated. And in my mind, this is the shameful part. In my mind, my mind was saying, if you're going to leave, you got to leave now, because in a minute it's going to be too late. But after all my struggles for 5 years, I didn't leave. I got initiated, and so that was good. Yeah, but so then I had first initiation, but I didn't get second initiation from Prabhupada before he left. And I already knew Satsvarup Maharaj was the zonal acharya for our temple in Boston and several other temples in the Northeast United States, and I already knew him, and I really admired him, and really was already wanted to be initiated by him, and I was really happy when I heard he was going to be the initiator for our temple. At that time, it was fairly strict about taking initiation from the zonal acharya, and anyways, I got initiated by him, second initiation, and he gave one lecture in a class I was in shortly after, and he said one thing about the devotees in my category who were first initiated by Prabhupada but not second. He said, you can either see me if you want, just as like an officiating guru, or if you want, you can relate to me also as your spiritual master. You're disciples of Prabhupada, but you can relate to me in that way also as also your spiritual master. I'm not the same person as Prabhupada, but you can relate to me as your spiritual master. And that's what I wanted to do. So that's what and he said one thing then that I never forgot, obviously. And he said, just like if you were initiated by Prabhupada in like 1974 or 75, when Prabhupada already had many disciples, and Prabhupada was in your temple or you were visiting where he was, you might think, these devotees are going to see Prabhupada. I'm a disciple too. I'll go see him too. But it won't be so easy because there are so many disciples, and it was not so easy to just go in and see, have a darshan with Prabhupada. And but he said, but if I'm going to see you, or going to see Prabhupada, and I say, you come with me, I'm going to see Prabhupada, then you can go, then you'll be able to go right in. So he gave, that was his, and it made perfect sense. I came, I didn't come late, but I got initiated late in Prabhupada's stay here, and I didn't never have a chance to meet Prabhupada directly. But I knew that what he said was exactly right. If I'm going to see Prabhupada, you can come with me, and it'll be very easy. So I've always had that attitude towards him and Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, that's the essence of the relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master. The spiritual master is intimate associate of his spiritual master, and Prabhupada and the whole disciplic succession. The spiritual master is a intimate associate of Krishna, and so the whole meaning of taking initiation in having a bona fide spiritual master is that he takes us to Krishna. It's really as simple as that. There's nothing complicated. There's so many rules and so many demanding services and so many struggles along the way. But the essence of the relationship is that our spiritual master takes us to Krishna. And anyways, what I wanted to talk about in the verse, not so much in this verse, except that, not so much in this verse, but I read the previous verses leading up to this verse in this chapter, and it's all about how Mother Devahuti, she served Kardama Muni so faithfully, and even to the point where she neglected her own health, her own comfort, or even her eating and her even cleanliness, but she was just faithfully serving her spiritual, her pati guru, or her husband, and so that's the thing that the most important thing that I've learned in all my time in Krishna consciousness is just the act of constant service to my spiritual masters in disciplic succession. Of course, I've never really neglected my health or eating. I certainly haven't neglected my eating, but I've worked very hard for these years. Not so hard anymore, but I still try to keep very busy. I live in the Boston Temple and do as much as I can. And but anyway, the most important thing in the relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master is loyalty and commitment and a sense of duty. Srila Prabhupada always emphasized a sense of duty to him, and definitely in the early days there was a very strong sense of duty to Prabhupada's representatives, the GBC, the temple regional secretary, the temple president, the temple commander, the head cook, whoever you were serving under. There's always the temple president, but I was generally under the head cook and the temple commander, and of course the temple president. And His Holiness Niranjana Swami was one of my first temple presidents, and he was a really great temple president. But we had many great. Anyway, and Prabhupada emphasized it so heavily, the sense of duty. Duty means you get up before Mangalarti, you get ready, you go down to the temple room. We were always supposed to be there before the curtains open, never come in late or anything, but Mangalarti, the whole morning program, it's like we're doing this class now. The only reason we're doing this class now and following the whole morning program is because that's what Prabhupada established, and so we faithfully follow the morning program, and all through the day we have our services, our chanting japa, of course, and reading Prabhupada's books. And all our services, my mind is just blown, boggled by all the services here in Mayapur. It's just like I can't even imagine who can manage such a big project, or who can take care of this huge project. It's just so far beyond my comprehension that I can't even practically think of it. But I see that it's going on, and it's going on really good. But anyway, so faithfulness, loyalty, those are the key things in any relationship. You have a friend, or a husband, or a wife, or even a dog. We generally, a lot of people have dogs in the United States, and I had a dog for a long time when I lived in Gitanagari. I lived there for about 20 years, and when you could have a dog there. So, and he was loyal to me, and he was faithful, and I was faithful to him, and I was loyal to him. And anyway, that's the basis of the bedrock, bottom line basis of any relationship. Even a work relationship, you have to show some loyalty, some faithfulness. But certainly in a close relationship of friends, or husband and wife, family, commitment, the bottom line is loyalty and faithfulness. And so I always emphasize that point to whoever, any devotees I'm talking to. Most of the devotees in Boston are younger than me, and everyone is struggling. Every devotee is struggling, especially in the beginning. We're coming out of material life for millions of births and deaths, and there's a struggle. And so I always emphasize, just stay loyal, just stay faithful, just always do your duties. And sometimes you might not be able to do your duties. Sometimes you might have to fall back for a little while because we can't do our duties. It's happened to me a few times where I needed some time. But even if you have to fall back a little bit for a while, you never lose your sense of loyalty and faithfulness to your spiritual master. And everything in Krishna consciousness depends on that. And that's I'll just read a few lines from the Sri Guru Charana Padma, which is the lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is a perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. I always comment on that part. By him ignorance is destroyed. It's like I remember my first 18 years growing up without any idea, and no idea of Krishna consciousness. And I didn't know I was in ignorance, but when I read, I thought I was smart. I remember this is a story I tell a lot. The first time I came to the Boston Temple in the end of 1970, and devotees were playing a lecture of Prabhupada during Prasadam. And one thing I remember hearing him say was, he said really strongly, he said, and you should know that you're damn fool number one. And I was like, damn fool number one? My mother told me I was smart. And I did pretty good in school. And I come here and I'm damn fool number one. But I was damn fool. I'm still damn fool, number one. But definitely then I was. What did I know? I didn't know anything. I knew how to eat, sleep, mate, and defend. And so he opens our darkened eyes, and by him ignorance is destroyed. As soon as we become Krishna conscious, as soon as our minds are open and we can understand in the beginning that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that Prabhupada is his pure devotee, come to save the fallen souls on the order of his spiritual Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. The devotees in New Alipur in Calcutta, they took me to see the Ultananga, where Prabhupada met Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj for the first time. And I tell you, that was talk about a humbling experience to be standing in the exact place where Prabhupada met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And I've never experienced a more humbling time. And anyway, Prabhupada came, and he just to save all the fallen souls. And he knew what we were in the United States. He knew how crazy we were, and how ignorant we were. But he came, and out of his causeless mercy, and he saved so many fallen souls, and he destroyed the ignorance in our heart. Just destroyed. It's like just took a hammer and he just destroyed. The ignorance is destroyed. It's gone. You can still hold back, like I did for a few years. You can still hold back and resist, but you can never forget the absolute truth of Krishna consciousness, and it never leaves. It'll never leave. It never leaves us once we're awake. Just like once you're awake in the morning, you may wish you could go back to sleep. You may try to go back to sleep, but you can't go back to sleep. You're awake, and the ignorance of whatever you were going through, the ignorance of the motive ignorance in sleep, whatever dreams you were having, it's all just gone, destroyed by the light of day and by waking up. So now we're all awake to Lord Chaitanya's mercy, to the absolute truth that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, and all we have to do, the only thing we have to do is just be like a faithful dog. Spiritual Master Prabhupada said that in the beginning. He said that your neck beads that we wear are a dog collar. That's not something that the average conditioned soul wants to hear. Like, here's your dog collar. Put it on. I'd never take it. But anyway, dog. The good quality is so many bad things that Prabhupada says about. He says so many times. The people in Kali Yuga are like dogs and cats. He says that over and over and over again. But the one good quality of a dog is they're extremely loyal and faithful, dedicated to the person who takes care of them. And so that's what we have to do. That's all we have to do. That's the only thing we have to do. Just remain faithful and humble servants, and execute our service, our duty to the best of our ability, and try to surrender as much as possible. Okay, I guess I'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Yeah?
Thank you, Prabhu, for your wonderful class and your experiences in joining the temple. And I like to study the history of ISKCON, and so I'd love to ask you a question about your perspective on what seems to be a dichotomy between what we have in Scripture and what actually happened in the 1970s and up to the maybe the mid 80s and maybe even early 90s. At the beginning of your class, you mentioned how even though you had accepted Krishna as God, you still felt like in order to surrender, you had to move into the temple.
Yeah.
Satsrup Maharaj recently on the Namras podcast mentioned the exact same words, and you hear all of Prabhupada's disciples speaking about the language of, when did I join? Like there was a literal moving into a physical location, which symbolized one's...
Usually, mostly, not everybody, but pretty much.
Now, in the Shastra though, like for example, 10.14.3 from the Bhagavatam, stanistitaha, that you can remain in your situation. And all over the place, Prabhupada is saying, like for example, in that famous verse from the Kurma Brahmana in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says that the sublime mission of the Krishna consciousness movement is we tell people to stay at home, just, they can stay in their residence. So my question...
And Prabhupada said that many times in the beginning, at 26 2nd Avenue, he said that many times.
So my question, Prabhuji, is what were the factors that created at ground level this sort of push to move into a temple as a symbol of surrender, and everyone basically did that. There was just one option. And on the other hand, in the light of Shastra that generally says, hey, if you're a householder, stay at home and just add Krishna into your life.
Well, one thing was there was practically, unless you were like super determined, which I wasn't, there was practically no way to stay Krishna conscious unless you were in the temple. There was no bhajans going on anywhere. Nobody knew anything about Krishna anywhere. And pretty much, if you wanted to be a devotee, you better live in the temple, and that's my experience. And also it was, Prabhupada knew that we had to. He knew we had to live together, because he knew we were what all the devotees were coming out of, and I think he understood that we wouldn't be able to be strong enough to on our own and stay at home and worship deities and chant japa and live a regulated life. Things were quite a bit different back then, and everybody was coming out of hippie life or semi-hippie life, or everybody was taking some kind of drugs and illicit sex and everything, and it just without the temple, there had to be the temples. And the other thing is that the temples were fired up. The first time I went to the temple, Christmas vacation, the end of 1970, is like all the devotees were young, like 18, 20, 25, maybe 30 years old. And everybody was like really enthusiastic. As soon as I came in the door, devotees are like, hey, it's great to have you here. And this is a picture of Krishna, and he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is a picture of Srila Prabhupada, and he's Krishna's pure devotee. And then they talked to me, and there was no it was everything. All the preaching was very direct. Like there's no like subtle. It wasn't very subtle preaching. It was really pretty direct, and then so I was there for a while, and then somebody gave me a broom and said, "Can you sweep the floor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll sweep the floor." And then there was time for prasadam, and I thought that was fantastic. One thing I remember from the first time I went to the temple was devotees it was prasadam time, and the temple president asked one, I think it was Gaur Hari Prabhu at the time, and he asked one of the brahmacharis, "Can you serve prasadam?" And the brahmachari said, "Do I have hands?" Like, what do you mean? Can I say? Of course I can serve. I'll serve prasadam. I have hands. And so the little things like that, like, really impressed me. And the temple was just a fantastic, wonderful, magical place, and you wanted to live. And if especially if you weren't married, there were married devotees who moved in the temple too with their wives and children. But especially if you weren't married, then there wasn't the pressure. But one big thing back then, well, this is sort of a little off the point, but there were hardly anybody had a student loan back then. So if you were in college, you could just drop out of college and move in the temple. And sometimes they'd tell you that. Just quit school and move in the temple. And if you did graduate, you weren't under a mountain of debt immediately, that you had to get a job right away so you could move in the temple. Anyway, the main thing is the two things. One is you practically wouldn't be able to maintain your Krishna consciousness outside the temple. And the other thing is, maybe some could do it, but I doubt it. I bet it was very few. And on the other side, the temple was just a fired up, wonderful place. You wanted to be there. You wanted to go on Harinam and do all the things the devotees were doing.
Thank you.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture. You were telling that actually the only thing we should do is to be faithful and loyal to the spiritual master. And still, even though we sing these songs every day, actually, to point out the importance of the spiritual master, our mindset is still like, okay, when he tells something, we sometimes play it down or try to interpret it, like his instructions in a different way so that we don't have to follow. So maybe you can tell some words on that to drive away this mentality in my heart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all I can say is all the devotees are great souls. And we're all here because we want to surrender to our spiritual master, because we want to surrender to Krishna. All the devotees are great souls, and but we're coming out of many births of conditioned life, where our purpose was to be independent and to be the independent enjoyer. So that mentality is, and to not take orders from anyone. Like in the United States, people don't like to take orders from anyone. Like super, if you have a job, you're like, all right, I have to go do what my boss tells me. But people are really like, you can't tell, who are you to tell me what to do? You can't tell me what to do. So there's still some of that in us. I mean, the United States might be the worst place for that. I don't know, but it's common in all the conditioned souls. That mentality. So that it's a struggle, but we have to know that we just have to know that that's what I'm up against. I'm up against my own conditioning. I'm up against my own reluctance to surrender. As Prabhupada said, Krishna has causeless mercy on the fallen souls, and the conditioned soul has causeless unwillingness to surrender to Krishna. Like, why don't you want to, like a little kid throwing a tantrum on the floor. I did it when I was a kid. Probably a lot of us here did it when we were kids. Or you might have kids that have done it to you. A kid just lies on the floor and he's like, I don't want to go. I'm not going to go. And he's like, why? And it's like, there's no reason why. I'm not going to do it. So that's that's at the root of everything. Our desire to still some leftover conditioning that we still want to maintain some degree of independence, unsurrender. Yeah. So it's what we struggle with, but we know what the struggle is. We know what the struggle is, and we know what we have to do to work on the struggle. It's not. All the devotees are extremely intelligent, and the principles are the ideas are in essence very simple. I'm not surrendering, I'm resisting surrendering. What should I do? I should surrender more. And so we're always self-examining our mentality, and so just keep working on yourself. Krishna consciousness, we're neophytes, many of us are neophytes, and so we have a long way to go, and we have a lot of surrender to work on. That's all I can say. Just keep working on yourself. You'll be successful. The point is that Krishna wants us to be successful. The spiritual master wants us to be successful, and they're helping us every step of the way. We're not on our own. It's not a one-way street. Guru and Krishna and all the devotees are always helping us. Hare Krishna. Thank you for listening. Or do we stop now? Okay. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.